Go for section 3. There is a heading with respect to definitions. Section 3, section 4, and section 4A in detail. Okay. This content I have to go line by line in the sense that I have to go word by word. Okay. So kindly bear with me. Three sections: the direct section containing the definitions. Section 4, application of foregoing definitions to previous enactment. What are the previous how many acts we have in total? General Clauses Act. Can you help me out? One is 1897, which we are following. Earlier to this is earlier to this is 1887, and earlier to this is 1868. I think this is third Jana, fourth Jana. Kindly check me the date. Tell me the date. 4th Jan, 14th Jana. This is 14th Jan, I remember, and this is 11th March. What's the first date? Is that 4th Jan? Here. This is 11th March 1897. 3rd Jan. 3rd Jan 1868. Okay. Okay. Yes, please join. When we follow 1897 Act, the General Clauses Act 1897, what are the things happening after this date? All this will be covered. Okay. By default, it is covered. Something called as post laws, not post constitutional law. I'm talking about post General Clauses Act 1897. But there are some definitions which fall under this year, this period, and this period. So, what is an applicability? That is discussed in section 4 now. Application of foregoing definitions to previous enactment. What is the previous enactment? This one and this one. So, what are the definitions which are applicable and which are the definitions not applicable? We'll discuss in this act. And another one is 4A, which is application of certain definitions to Indian law. See, when we say General Clauses Act, we are talking about it's like a dictionary. Okay. So when we say government, which government? Are we talking about any foreign government? No, we are talking our own government. So there will be certain definitions which will be applicable for Indian laws. So these three sections has to be covered. So let me go for section number 3. It is the principal section. Okay, please highlight. These are the vocabularies needed. This section contains definitions with respect to applicability. Applies to the General Clauses Act itself, which means somewhere I find the term what as act in the General Clauses Act. It is defined here itself. Okay. And to post laws, which is post 1897 central acts and regulations. Okay. This is general applicability unless those laws contain separate definitions to their own. Those laws means what? For example, we are talking about SARA and securities definition, or we are talking about digital signature under deposit IT Act. So we have so many definitions, right? If you go refer there, you have a list of definitions. Those definitions, even though look similar, like immovable property, General Clauses Act is slightly different, and Transfer of Property Act is slightly different. So when we go for those definitions are applicable for those acts. Okay, now let me read it. Unless those laws contain separate definitions, which means what? It is containing its own definitions. If it contains its own definition, then those are applicable. Okay. And there is something repugnant in the subject of contest. What is repugnancy means? How far is applicable? It is not consistent like. So till here, from here till here is the applicability. That is what and all is applicable. Section 3 seeks to define 67 phrases and terms commonly used in enactments and are intended to serve as dictionary. Please highlight, you may get it as quotes. So this serves as a dictionary, okay, for the phrases. Continuing. Okay, let me go over here. First, so section 3, first one, act. Follows from clause 2. What do you mean by act? It's not bad act and other things about. We are saying the acts of actions. But here, actions is not about the right actions. We are talking about the wrong actions. So it's referring to offense or civil wrong. When we say an offense or civil wrong, we cannot say directly one act is a wrong act. There will be sequence of acts following. So probably if you talk about this illustration, follows from section 36 of IPC, the act by which A causes Z's death. Z is no more now. He died. How he died? A is the reason. See, A causes Z's death. What he did. Blows given, blows given in beating him, plus a series of illegal omissions, namely wrongful neglecting or refusing to supply him with food at proper times. அடிச்சே கொண்டிருக்காரு சாப்பாடு போடாமலே கொண்டிருக்காரு not provided food. One action. Act. Action is not action, move. I'm not talking about the move, I'm talking about the wrongfulness. What are the wrongful acts? He did not give the food. Okay. He was given continuous beating, blows up given in beating. Okay. So all these made him to die. He did not directly murder, but what? This sequence of or this series of acts. So this is about act. Okay. Next, let me go for affidavit. Probably you have to go for affidavit. Make a note of it. You have to go for affidavit. Scroll to the next pages. You will find something called as swearing and oath. Swearing is S. Okay, starting with S. And oath O. See over here. Where is oath? Here. 17th definition. This is clause 37. See, totally there are 67 definitions, but we are not discussing all. Only a few we are discussing. So go for oath, affidavit, oath, and swear. You see, we'll come across three terms. One is affidavit, one is oath, and one is swearing. Probably in any college applications or somewhere, at the end of the page, you will find this. I declare that to my knowledge, the above details and particulars, etc., are true to my knowledge. Okay. So you'll be using declare, but declare is a normal term. I declare means I say all the details are true. Okay. Declare is a normal term. But when we go for the legal side, we'll be using something called as affidavit or taking oath or swearing. Okay. So, what do you mean by swearing is swearing with its grammatical variation. Please highlight grammatical variation and cognate expression, which means what? At one place we say swear, at one place we say oath, and another place we say affidavit. That's what we say. Grammatical variation, cognate expression, similar to that. All meanings the same only. Shall include affirming and declaring in the case of persons by law allowed to affirm or declare. As per the law, I'm an individual. I'm allowed to declare. I'm filing income tax. I'm allowed to declare. How I'm filing? Self-assessing. I'm allowed to declare. So in that case, I'm doing means I'm allowed by law. So which persons are doing this? Persons allowed by law. They can firm or declare instead of swearing means we say this as swearing only. The same definition will come for oath also. Please join for oath. What's given here? Oath shall include affirmation and declaration in case of persons by law allowed to affirm or declare instead of swearing. Same definition. Which means what? Whether you say oath or whether you say affidavit or whether you say swearing, it all means the same. Okay. So what is affidavit? That is second term, right? Please join for. Affidavit shall include more or less the same only. Affirmation and declaration in the case of persons. Who are the persons? Persons by law, okay, allowed to affirm or declare instead of swearing. Only these two is the line of definition. These are all interpretation of the definition. So, what do you mean by affidavit? You need to have two important ones. One is affirmation and declaration. I affirm or I declare, etc., etc. In case and who has to declare or affirm? In case of persons allowed as per the law, which means I'm using this law, I'm allowed as per the law. For example, if we go for incorporation of a company, what incorporation rule says? As per that law, I'm allowed. Okay. I remember one case where there is a case proceedings going related to some property, I think. Okay. That's very long back, some 7 or 8 years before. I was given this assignment to draft this affidavit. What's affidavit means is here in my case, As I was working for a legal firm also, okay, that was both legal and CS firm. So I got this assignment. This person, let me name it as X for convenience sake. This person has to go for a court proceeding. Okay. So the court adjournment was given on a particular date. On the same date, he was having his akka ponnu marriage நினைக்கிறேன். Niece or nephew, akka பொண்ணு akka பையனா ஞாபகம் இல்ல எனக்கு. Marriage. See, as per the Hindu law, தாய் மாமன் relationship is so very important that தாய் மாமன் இல்லைன்னா கல்யாணம் ஆகாது. So it is so much given importance for the relationship. So this person X has to be on that wedding, but he cannot go for the court, which is important. Law says this relationship is important rather than attending the court proceedings because it's not a crime case at all. It's a civil case going on, and he cannot attend. Even though he's not attending, his advocate will go and attend. What advocate will do? Actually that person has to attend, right? What the advocate says is this person has given a letter. What letter is that? Excuse letter. That is affidavit. Okay, see, that's an example of affidavit. There are so many things. It's covering a wider definition. There are so many things can fall under affidavit. I'm just giving an example. So what this person is doing, I declare that I have to attend this meeting as per the Hindu religious rituals and so many things. I only design, so I can remember so well. Date along போட்டு என்ன moral சொல்லிட்டு because that relationship is so very important. This thing. So what happened is he gave this to an advocate who is presenting that case, and he took it. He will give it to the judge because the judge first thing what he will ask is whether that client is present. That is that person, that party is present. Immediately the advocate will say that party is not present. He couldn't come. I have submitted that affidavit. Okay, affidavit means his presence, or he might not be physically present, but his presence is over there. See, now you read this one shall include affirmation and declaration. Who has to give this affidavit? Not advocate. Who has to write and sign it? The concerned person. Okay. In the case of persons by law, who's allowed to affirm or declare, not everybody can give it. Police station வந்து daily sign பண்ணோம். I cannot send my friend, okay? I should not do that. That's not allowed. So it's allowed by law, then you can do that. Okay. So in case of persons allowed affirming or declaring instead of swearing. See, swearing, affirming, declaring, everything is same only. Don't get confused. The above definition is inclusive in nature. It states an affidavit shall include affirmation and declaration. You remember? When we talk about definition, we'll have include, we'll have may, we'll have shall. We may not have may not, but it includes may. Inclusive definition, exhaustive definition, all we have discussed, right? So this definition does not define affidavit. Please highlight. This was asked once in the exam. This question was asked. Does affidavit is defined in the General Process Act? Actually, it's not defining. What it's doing? It's including. It's an inclusive definition. See, we learned these two words, right? One is means and one is includes. Means it's an exact definition. Includes means is not defining what it's doing, listing out. Remember? Okay. So this definition actually is not defining what is an affidavit. However, we can understand in general parlance what do you mean by affidavit. It's a written statement confirmed by oath or affirmation for use as evidence in court or before any authority. Is it okay? Probably you may expect this way, or you may expect us define affidavit, oath, and swearing as per the General Process Act. So you have to write all the three definitions. Yes, can you please go through now? It's a central act. So you know what do you mean by central act, right? Means an act of parliament. Shall include, please highlight. This is a means and include definition. Means is defining. What do you mean by central act? It defines it's an act of parliament. So you know what is a parliament. And shall include an act of the dominion legislation or of the Indian legislation passed before the commencement of the constitution, that is between this period 1947 to 1950. Any act passed between this period is also called a central act, even though we do not have a central government at that time. When a constitution is there from 26 Jan 1950 only it's present. Okay, even though it's not present during this time, we call this as a central act because it's given over here. Okay, continuing. And an act made before such commencement by the Governor General in Council or the Governor General acting in legislating capacity. So we call that legislation as dominion legislation, and also we were not having Chief Minister or Prime Minister, those terminology, President and all. Instead, we had Governor General. Okay, so the date of commencement is 26th Jan 1950. Which one you call as the central government? Shall, in relation to anything done before the commencement of the Constitution, see, before the commencement of the Constitution, mean the Governor General in Council is the central government. Okay, and shall include first point. This is A under that first point. In relation to functions trusted under the Government of India Act, who was taking care? See, all the we have these four organs. What are the organs? Legislative organ, right? Executive organ, judicial organ, with military organ. Okay, all the activities are not given directly to the prime minister. Okay, so we have so many ministers and they are taking care. And he's the prime minister. See, we have so many ministers. Among them, he's a prime. He's a main minister. That's why we call us prime minister. Which doesn't mean he has all the rights to take the role play. Okay, so there will be ministers who will be giving the recommendation, and depending on those recommendations, will be dealing. Okay, so this is the planning behind. Likewise, we have the role of chief minister also. So, Government of India, what it does is 1935 itself we got this act. Of India Act is from the year 1935. Here they are clearly defining what are the related principal functions and all. It's given in section 124 to the government of a province, the principal government acting within the scope of the authority. Whatever authority is given, that will be taken care by that government. This first point. Second point. This in relation to the administration of the chief commissioner's province. The chief commissioner acting within the scope of his authority. As per the said act. What's the said act? The act means the General Clauses Act. Which act we are in? The General Clauses Act. So whenever you come across this term, the act, which act we are talking about? General Clauses Act. Said act. Said means what? Said now. What we are saying now. Okay. Government of India Act is the act we are dealing here. So said act means we are dealing about this act. So this are not done then for before. Now come for the second category B after. More or less the same line. Okay. But instead of what Governor General and other things and all, we'll get government of state government, and the related constitutions. Okay, probably 1950s our main constitution. After that, we got so many amendments, and there was a seventh amendment in this year, 1956, and later to that. So I'm not going line by line. And third one, apart from government, central, state, we also have related to union territory. So, what are the administrative related jobs the union territory has been undergone will be considered. Okay, falling from which it's not section, it's article. Before the constitution, we have section related to Government of India Act. After that, we have to follow Indian constitution only. Then we say it's article. Okay, so this is 239 or 243. This is 239. Okay. So the new constitution of India then came on 26th Jan 1950, made India a sovereign republic country. You know the preamble? Sovereign country, republic country, fraternity, etc. The new republic was declared as the Union of States, and between 1947 to 1950, the territories of the princely states were politically integrated into the Indian Union. So Andaman and Pondicherry, Lakshadweep, everything has been merged. Okay, and the constitution distinguished between these three main states as an class of territories. Here we name it as Part A states, Part B states, and Part C states. The list of the state names. Okay, what is the covering under Part A states? What is the covering under Part B states? Unit administratively. Okay, what is the covering under Part C and Part D? Then we go Part D. Seems to be very simple. That's what we, okay. Ordering is not a big thing. What and all is contained in Part D, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which is administered by Lieutenant Government appointed by Central. What do you mean by Lieutenant Governor? Actually, he is not the main governor. He is governing other states, and along with it, he is governing the state also. Okay, especially for union territories and all, will not have the main governor. For Pondicherry, who is the governor? Lieutenant Governor only we see. Okay, so appointed by who? Central government. Come for Part A now. We had to go here in order. Part A, which were the former governor provinces of British India, were ruled by governor appointed by whom? Governor is appointed by president and an elected state legislature. Here we'll be having 9 states on Assam, not particularly in alphabetical order. Here, among the 9 states is given alphabetical order. Okay. Second is Bihar. Third is Bombay, now Mumbai. Fourth is Madhya Pradesh. Formerly it was called as central provinces and Berar. Then Chennai. Okay. Fifth one, Orissa, Punjab, which is formerly East Punjab, then Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal. All these 9 states will be called as party states. Okay, if you are writing any bank exams or any related government exams, you have to know all this. Okay, Part B states, former princely states or groups of princely states governed by Raj Pramukh. We have this Panchayat and all nowadays only. So earlier we called this as Raj Pramukh, who was usually the ruler of the constituent state and an elected legislature. And here the Raj Pramukh will be appointed by the President of India. And we have 8 Part B states. Starts from here, Hyderabad, Jammu and Kashmir. Now it's Jammu and Kashmir divided. Okay. Then Bharat. Then fourth one, Mysore, Patiala, and East Punjab. We call in short as PEPSU. Okay. East Punjab States Union. So this is 6. Rajasthan 7. Saurashtra, I don't think so. Something. Oh, okay. Patiala and this one joined together. So this is 5, right? 5. This is 6. 6. Saurashtra 7 and Travancore Cochin is 8. These 8 will be called under or will be put under Part B states. Next was Part C states, included both former Chief Commissioner provinces and some princely states, and they are governed by Chief Commissioner appointed by President of India, and 10 will be falling under this case. Ajmer, Bhopal, Bilaspur, Coorg, Delhi, Himachal Pradesh, Kutch. We have the spelling now. Kutch, okay. Then Manipur, Tripura, and Vindhya Pradesh. Vindhya is Himalayas. Okay. You know national anthem? Okay. So we have 10 states only. Okay. So first case, Patela, 9, here 8, then 10, and here Andaman and Nicobar. Okay. So 28 states. Is it okay? Now we are renaming actually we are not saying Madras as a state, Chennai as a state, but under the control they define as Part A states, Part B states, and Part C states. Okay. Okay, fine. Only challenge is if you get this question in the exam, how you are going to present. Not who have to present. Okay. Shall I continue? Bro? Commencement follows from section 3, clause 13, used with reference to an act or regulation. You cannot directly define a word commencement at all. If you talk about an act or regulation, from which day it is coming into force, that's what you call as commencement. So commencement is not a single word like. Okay. So shall mean the day on which the act or regulation comes into force. You remember act of enactment or act of commencement. On which date? If any date is mentioned, that day. Else we'll have the retrospective effect. Okay. So it goes on like this, the same way. So coming into force, or you define this as entry into force, also called as commencement. So three words may be used: coming into force, or entry into force, or called as commencement. Refers to the process by which legislation, regulation, treaties. What do you mean by treaties? If the two governments are entering between means, we'll call it as treaties. Okay. If two governments are there, they are entering between some agreement like, we'll call that as treaties. Okay. And other legal instruments come to have legal force and effect. So its commence means from that day onwards it's effective. So a law cannot be said to be enforced unless it is brought into operation, whether I'm applicable to that or not. I'm running a business in the year 2016 and I have to pay service tax or GST, not GST, service tax only, because GST was like talk of the town, but was not implemented. Okay, so in that case, we cannot call this as we fall under GST. Okay. So the theory of statute. Statute means law in operation of the constitutional sense. We have to check it's not in fact in operation at all. If this commencement date is not announced, it's not an active law, which means we need not follow that. So it's not in operation. Okay. Next definition. Document follows from 18 shall include any matter. See, highlight anything it can be. Anything means writing, expressed or described upon any substance. செதுக்குறது எது வேணாலும் இருக்கலாம். Okay. By means of letters, it can be figures, it can be marks, or by more than one of those means which is intended to be used or which may be used for purpose or recording. Please highlight. There is something and you are making it as the recorded format. That also is called as document. Okay, so you have to consider all these. Okay. Actually, this one para is broken as 1, 2, so on. Okay. So document includes any substance. Okay, this is not normal. Only I'm not repeating. Let me go for this one. Just a list of example. Book is a document. Any file, painting, inscription, even computer files are documents. However, it does not include Indian currency. Indian currency, no, you call it as, not call it as a document. Okay. Enactment. So enactment is talking about a act, regulation, statute. So shall include a regulation and any regulation of Bengal, Madras or Bombay Code and shall also include any provision contained in act. Please highlight this one. We may not be talking about the full act. We may not be talking about the full regulation. We may be talking about one single provision, one single section like or in any act or in any such regulation. Okay, so it include any act made by the Union Parliament or state legislation. So it carries a wider definition. You cannot say only is applicable to the Act of Parliament. It's applicable for the state legislation also. For everything is applicable. So it's defined to include also any provision of the Act. You remember if we were talking about this effect of repeal, the same thing follows. I'm not repeating. That's why I went there and coming back here. Okay, if I go here, you will not understand. That's why I discuss all those provisions and coming back home. So section 6 also, whether it goes for repealing, how far this is effective. Repeal means what? We have another one for word repealing. Never existed. Which means what? It's not like inactive. Never existed means what? Not inactive. Okay. Okay, rules and regulations. What do you mean by rules and regulations? A colloquial definition given. We go for financial year. Financial year, you know already. What do you mean by financial year? Usually it means the year commencing from which date? 1st April. Okay. So the term year, when we say year, see we have so many calendars we are considering here with respect to British calendar. Okay. But when we talk about year, actually in general clause that it means calendar year. See, accounting term we use year as financial year. If you are studying in any college, then we say year is academic year. Okay, each and every term will be having a different meaning. When we say under General Clauses Act, year means calendar year only. This is a general definition. Year means calendar year. From when? 1st January to December. Last day of December. Okay. But when we say financial year, when it starts? First day of April. Okay, so that's the difference between, they have asked, difference between financial year and calendar year. Financial year starts from first day of April, but calendar year starts from first day of Jan. Okay, read the lines with stress and pause. Okay. As per section 3, clause 32, sorry, 22, good faith is something, a thing, something shall be deemed to be done. Please highlight this word. What do you mean by deemed to be done? Which means it's not defined at all. Something you do, we consider is done in good faith. I'm asking you 500 rupees note and you're giving it to me. You're giving it to me. And I take it from you. And I believe that it's your money. You take it from your pocket, you take it from your wallet. What I think you're giving your money home. That's what a good faith. Okay. So how you can define good faith is there is no proper definition, but it's considered deemed to be done in good faith. நம்பி பண்றோம் அவேர்னஸோட பண்றோம் ஹானஸ்டா பண்றோம் so where it is in fact done honestly, whether it's done negligently or not. I'm going to buy a second hand two-wheeler car. What are the things you'll check? You are not a two-wheeler mechanic, probably you might be aware of something, some knowledge. So I give the sole responsibility to buy a two-wheeler. What are the things you'll check? You just give me some points. என்னென்ன செக் பண்ணுவீங்க? கிக் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணணும், பிரேக் கிக் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணனாலும் அட்லீஸ்ட் பட்டன் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணனா கிக் ஸ்டார்ட் ஆகுதா செக் பண்ணுவோம். சவுண்ட் கேட்காம இருக்கணும். டூ வீலர் தான் ஓட்டணும், ஆட்டோ ஓட்டமா இருக்கக்கூடாது. கரெக்டா? So you have some basic things as per your knowledge you'll check. Now just you are taking a mechanic to the person. Okay. He checks the two-wheeler. What he will check? Sound doesn't matter. How far the engine capacity is there? That matters. His knowledge, according to his knowledge, he's having a different list to check whether this is a quality two-wheeler. As per my knowledge, I'll be having a different condition. As per another person's knowledge, he'll be having a different condition. So, what do you mean by done honestly, or what do you mean by done in good faith is whether you do it negligently or not. you will have some particular definition as per that act, you follow that act. That's why they same as deemed. Before going for these two paras, I'll come for the last para. Come over here. In this case, they are actually clearly defined. Let me go word by word. Please join with me. It was pointed out that the expression good faith is not defined in the Indian Contract Act. Okay. See, whenever a definition is given in that act, you follow that definition. You need not come here. So I'm just going to check this Indian Contract Act. Good faith is not defined over there. It's not defined over there. Where I have to come? General Clauses Act. Okay. So it's not defined in Indian Contract Act, and the definition given here in the General Clauses Act does not expressly apply the term. Please highlight what they say here in the definition. They say deemed to be. See, they are not talking about deemed to be purchase or selling. They are not talking about deemed to be entering into a contract. They are not expressly using this word. But as per our knowledge, we are applying the term only. So the definition of good will, as is generally understood in the civil law, we consider. Why we consider civil law here? Even though we are following General Clauses Act, we are following civil law. Why? Because it's a civil case. Contract is nothing but a civil case. So I have to refer civil law, and which may be taken as a practical guide in understanding the expression. Is that nothing is said to be done in good faith, which is done without due care and attention. So whatever I do in the non-ordinary prudence means I go for buying a bike. I need to have a checklist. I need to check my bike. So if you're having a very bad knowledge about the bike, don't buy the bike directly. If you know about the person or if you know about the bike only, you can buy it. I'm using a bike for five years. You totally rely on me. I say that I'm using for 5 years, I'm not finding any trouble. You are buying it from me. Tell me whether this is what in good faith is not about the good faith on the person who is selling. Please try to understand. It's about the good faith on the product for which you are entering for the contract. எனக்கு வண்டியை பத்தி தெரியாது நான் சூப்பரா இருக்குன்னு சொன்னா okay how can you rely on me because I may not have instead there is an engineer there is a mechanic he says it's a good vehicle. Okay, this will run without any trouble for another 2 years or 5 years. You can buy it for this rate. And also the rate actually has to be checked. You can buy it for this rate. Yes, you can buy it. Because he's an expert in that. So see now, I'll read the sentence. Understanding, etc., etc. Let me clean it. Can you join? Is that nothing is said to be done in good faith, which means what? We have to check whether it is done with due care. If it is not done with due care, you cannot say it's in good faith. And we have given proper attention to what? As with a man of ordinary prudence. What are the things ordinary prudence means? What are the things you have to check? You have to check. Okay. And this is the example. A honest purchase made carelessly without making proper inquiries cannot be have to be made in good faith as to convey good faith. Um, Actually, there is one case in Indian Contract Act. How many have done foundation here? No, sir. Okay, foundation. Okay. Probably you might have seen this problem in Indian Contract Act. There will be a pledging case going on. Pledging or sale. Okay. What happens is, let me go for, I'm not discussing on Indian Contract Act, I'm just giving an example. So let me go for a pledge case. There will be one person, I think his name will be Sham. You can refer Indian Contract Act. There will be one person, Sham. Okay. This is a happened case. That's why I'm so confidently saying. So this person, Mr. S. Shan, what he will do is he will go to a jewelry shop and he will buy a ring or something like that. Okay. And he will say that later period only I will pay the money. So he's buying in credit terms. After buying from the jewelry shop, what he does is he takes the rings and he goes for pledging. That's one person called as Bolanath. So he'll go to Bolanath and he'll go for pledging. And this Bolanath will take the ring and he'll give the money. So what do you mean by pledging? Adadvaikadu. Okay, Adadvaikadu. So this person Bolanath will take the ring, will take possession of the ring and he'll give the money. And this jeweler now asks for the money. He says, I don't have the ring. And this Bolanath, he has got the ring. S is the pledger because he is the owner of the property and he is the pledgee. Now this Bolanath asks for the ring. Okay, jeweler asks for the ring. He says, I have pledged it. So this happens a case whether the jeweler can record the ring from this person. What law says is Bolanath has bought or pledged in good faith. So who has the right to recover the ring? Only Sham has the right, jeweler does not have the right. So what do you mean by good faith? I brought it from you, which means I believe you are the owner and I bought it. But this will not happen in the case of sale. The same thing, probably just imagine the same thing happens. S went to a shop. Okay, he bought the ring on credit purchase, credit terms. Then he sold the ring to another person X. He sold. Okay. Usually, when we go for selling related terms, who is the real owner? Jeweler is the real owner, right? Even though X has bought it in good faith. What do you mean by good faith here? Actually, sir, not he's not the owner. It's like a stolen property, like he's not the real owner. Also, he has bought it in good faith. Yes, has no rights to get the title. See now, honest purchase. Who is making the honest purchase? X. What do you mean by honest purchase? நான் நம்பினா அதான் கரெக்ட்ன்ட்டு நான் வாங்கணும் அவ்வளவுதான். Okay, so it's a honest purchase made carelessly without making proper enquiries. You cannot say that you have made in good faith and you cannot get the title. So who's the real owner for this ring? The jeweler owner. Pledge will be differently considered and here it will be differently considered. Okay. Now let me go for this two para. So the question of good faith under the General Clauses Act is one of fact. That's why we say it's deemed. Fact means was case to case is different, depending on fact only. So it is determined with respect to the facts and circumstances of each case separately. Anything done with due care and attention, which is not malafide. Not malafide means what? Changed or something done. Okay, it's coming from the true or right person. That's what you call not malafide. Is presumed to have been done in good faith. So an authority is not acting honestly, which he had suspicion means something is wrong means he did not make further inquiry means is not acting honest. Okay, I have a doubt whether this is your vehicle or not. But saying you're my student, எப்படி நான் சந்தேகப்படுறது? I buy it. ஆனாலும் நான் டவுட்லயே இருக்கு. Which means what? I have not bought in good faith. Even though that's your vehicle, I have this in my mind. So I cannot say it's bought in good faith. Okay. So each and every enactment, that is each and every law will be having different definition parts. So it's not particularly applying to this enactment and so on. So these are all normal lines only. So here we are taking the help of Indian law. Okay. So let me continue. Now government, central government is different and government is different. Government or the government in general shall include both central government and state government. If the definition is with respect to central government, go over there. If it is with respect to government, come over here. This is a simple definition. Okay. So government is used, it includes central government or state government and both. The object is to make clear that the government frequently used as a convenient abbreviation. So sometimes we use appropriate government. You might have seen in many acts. Government means general, both central, state, and everything. In case appropriate government means as per the central law, central government, as per the state law, state government. You have heard of this list called as union list, state list, concurrent list. Okay, state union list means who has the power. Central government. State list means state government has the power. Concurrent list means depends on. It will be respectively mentioned. For state government, it will be given and central government will be given. Sometimes nothing is mentioned in central government. Okay. So in this case, we'll mention as not government, we mention as appropriate government. Appropriate government is depending on the case, we'll take that government. But in general, if we say government means we are mentioning both central and state. Okay. So either in the two senses indicated. So government generally connects three wings. One is legislation, as we know, executive and judiciary. But in narrow sense, we go for executive only because government we say as an administrative capacity person. Okay. So meaning to be assigned to that expression depends on the context. Shall we go for government securities? Shall mean securities of the central government or state government, but in any act or regulation made before the commencement shall not include securities with respect to Part B state government. Part B is falling under Raj Pramukh. Okay, so that will not be covered. Okay, and this we have discussed earlier. So immovable property, we are following as per General Process Act, not as per Transfer of Property Act. Okay, follows from clause 26 shall include. What do you mean by include? It's not defining, it's listing out. Includes what? Land. Benefits to arise out of land. Okay, fish and all. You can write it. Example, fish. It's a benefit arising out of land. Things attached to the earth, property, building. Things attached to the earth. Permanently fastened to anything attached to the earth. For example, machinery. For Google-free operation, they will permanently fasten it. Okay, which means you can detach and replace it somewhere, but to detach it, you have to break the concrete. So that's why we do it. Okay. It's an inclusive definition. It contains four elements, this one, etc. The definition of immovable property is in negative and not exhaustive meaning. Exhaustive means what? It should give the definition means. It's not means, it includes. So it's not a exhaustive. Okay. So the definition as given in the General Clauses Act will apply to the expression given in that amendment. Okay. So in this case, Santabai, the Supreme Court pointed out that trees must be regarded as immovable property because they are attached to or rooted to earth. The trees attached to earth, rooted to earth. Okay. An agreement to convey forest produce like tendu leaves, timber, bamboos, etc. The soil for making bricks. என்ன what name you use ஏதோ சோலை சொல்லுவாங்களே செங்கல் சோலையா செங்கல் சோலை the right to build on and occupy the land for business purpose, right to grow new trees and to get leaves from the trees that grow in further are all included in the term immovable property. What do you mean by convey? They have not used the term as transfer. Usually when we relate to immovable property they'll use transfer, but instead of using the transfer they are using the term convey, which means now it is not present. I have planted the tree. Tomorrow only it will give leaves. So it's something going, or it's going to be an immovable property, not only tomorrow. And I'm planning to get those leaves. You know the stendu leaves, timber, bamboos and all, stendu leaves in the BD la வைப்பாங்க. Somewhat it looks similar to beetle. வெத்தலை மாதிரியே இருக்கும். BD la வைப்பாங்க. Okay. BD manufacturing. So they go for wrapping it. Okay. So, right, yeah, beautiful book. Example 17. Right of way to access from one place to another. I'm going from one place to another. Traveling, road. Okay. So, may come within the definition of immovable property. Whereas, right to drain off water is not immovable property. It may look like as if attached, but it's not immovable property. Any machinery fixed to the soil, standing crops can be held as immovable property according to General Clauses Act. Standing crops as per Transfer of Property Act is not immovable. Standing crops as per Transfer of Property Act is not immovable. But as per General Clauses Act is immovable. Okay. Yes. Shall I take over? Imprisonment shall mean imprisonment of either description as defined in Indian Penal Code. Okay. கம்பி என்ன வைக்கிறது தான் இம்ப்ரிசன் பண்ண இந்தியன் பினல் கோட் சொல்லியிருக்காங்க அதே தான் இங்கன்னு சொல்றாங்க கிளியரா ஓகே so by section 53 of the Indian Penal Code the punishment to which offenders are liable under the code are imprisonment which are two descriptions. One is rigorous, that is hard labor, and another one is simple. Okay. So when an act provides that an offense is punishable with imprisonment, the court may, in its discretion, provide either rigorous imprisonment or simple. 10 நாள் ஜெயில் தண்டனை 3 மாசம் 6 மாசம் அந்த மாதிரியும் இருக்கலாம் இல்லைன்னா எப்படி இது லைஃப் சென்டென்ஸ் 14 வருஷம் தூக்கு தண்டனை அப்படி எப்படி வேணாலும் இருக்கலாம் okay so it may be rigorous in nature or rigorous means what hard it can be simple okay next we'll go for Indian law shall mean any act or ordinance, regulation, rule, order, bylaw, or other instrument which before the commencement of the Constitution had the force in any province of India or part thereof or thereafter. For example, we have 1950 Constitution of India Act. Okay. Before that, we had 1948 Factories Act related to factory laborers. What are the health measures we have to follow? One other example, 1935 Government of India Act. All of these are also covered as Indian laws. Okay, see now I'll read it. Any act or ordinance or regulation, rule, order, bylaw or other instrument before the commencement of the Constitution, had the force where in that province of India. Probably the applicability might be differing. See nowadays when we talk about the applicability of that, we say it extends to the whole of India. Okay. Earlier it was except Jammu and Kashmir. Now we say Jammu and Kashmir is also included. So extends the whole of India. So now During that period, we cannot say it's India completely. We say province of India or part thereof or thereafter, which means depending on their applicable to at those times, everything will be covered. So it may be either part A or part C or part thereof. What about part B? Part B is separately treated. Okay. But does not include any act of parliament of the United Kingdom. UK Act pass பண்ணியிருந்தா இங்கிலாந்து தானே ரூல் பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தாங்க ஸோ அதை பாஸ் பண்ணிதான் வரும் or any order in council rule or other instrument made under such act calling UK Act will not be called. Okay. Month shall mean a month reckoned according to the British character. Okay. Movable property, simple. Yeah, you can take a note of it. Movable, immovable. It's a pattern. See, we were discussing like affidavit, swear, oath. Likewise, you may expect as movable, immovable. Both as a pair question. Okay. So, shall mean property of every description. Very simple definition. Except immovable property. எதெல்லாம் மூவபிள் எதெல்லாம் இம்மூவபிள் இல்லையா அதெல்லாம் ரொம்ப சிம்பிள் ஓகே நீங்க பாட்டு கதை கதையா எழுதாதீங்க டோன்ட் ரைட் இம்மூவபிள் டெஃபினேஷன் இஃப் டைரக்ட்லி டிஃபைன் மூவபிள் ப்ராப்பர்ட்டிஸ் ஆஸ்ட் மீன்ஸ் ரைட் எக்ஸப்ட் இம்மூவபிள் okay that may be a 6 mark question you need not worry write only this okay probably you can highlight with this example so you remember this one example this one you can highlight right of way to access is immovable but right of draining the water is not immovable it's not immovable it's movable ஆமா தானே மேம் தண்ணி தானே மேம் மூவபிள் தானே சொல்லாதீங்க as per this definition is not covered so it's movable if it is covered under immovable means it's immovable okay so it's quite simple here sometimes law வந்து நம்ம படிக்கும்போது தான் காம்ப்ளிகேட் பண்ணிப்போம் அது ரொம்ப சிம்பிளா தான் இருக்கும் okay so thus any property which is not immovable is movable debts share electricity are okay oath we have discussed shall I take over offense shall mean any act or omission made punishable by any law can be any law okay for the time being in force so and any act or omission which is if done is punishable under any law for the time being in force is what is an okay official gazette or gazette in short shall mean the gazette of India or official gazette of the state so overall India is gazette of India or to that particular state is state is a public journal. What do you mean by Gazette of India? It's a public journal, first point, and an authorized legal document of the Government of India, published weekly by the Department of Publication, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Okay, so this is actually defining what do you mean by Gazette of India. It's a journal. Okay, as a public journal, what they will do? It's like a magazine. They are printing it. Okay, so they print official notices from the government. Okay. So when we say a bill comes as an act, what happens? It has to pass in Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, then get president as a keep it in bureau. நமக்கு தெரியவே தெரியாது. It's not an enactment. It's not a law. Please understand. It has to brought to the notice of the public. President sign பண்ணிட்டு நான் போட்ட முதல் சைன் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு வச்சுக்கிட்டாருன்னா வேஸ்ட் இருக்குங்க. It has to brought to the notice of the public. How it is brought to the notice of the public? By official gazette. If it is as per the state laws, means state gazette, and if it as per the central laws, means Gazette of India. Okay. So as a public journal, what they will do, they will print the notices. When it is printed in this official gazette, it becomes authentic in content, accurate, and strictly in accordance with the government policies and decisions. So where it is printed, government of okay. Person definition is very simple. Shall include any company, association, body of individuals, whether incorporated or not. In case இந்த எக்ஸாம் நீங்க படிக்கல ஓகே பர்சன் கேட்டாங்க நம்ம இன்கம் டாக்ஸ் ஆக்ட் படிச்சிருக்கோமே அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அந்த பர்சன் எழுதாதீங்க கிளியரா தெரிஞ்சு நீங்க படிக்காம எழுதுறீங்கன்ட்டு only three things are the three persons are included company association and body of individuals only three persons you need not include individual you need not include individual, you need not include branch or license office or something like that. FEMA we have studied, you remember? Branch office, license office, everything will be covered over there. Here will not cover it. This is the general definition. So now we are referring FEMA Act. The person or the term person comes. Tell me, this is the person or that is the person? That is the person. This is the dictionary, that is the law. Actually, this is the act. If person is not defined over there, what about company? Company defines person? No. So what do you mean by person as per the Companies Act? Okay. But when you say company, when wherever you find the term as company, what is it? As per the Companies Act, company incorporated as per the Companies Act. In other cases and all, in the case of business, it's considered as company as per the Companies Act. எப்போ நம்ம அக்கௌண்டிங் ஃபினான்சிங் சைட்லலாம் வரும்போது கம்பெனி சொன்னா அது ஆஸ் பர் த கம்பெனிஸ் ஆக்ட் இது இன்டர்பிரேட்டட் லா இல்ல நம்ம ஆக்ட்ல சொல்லவே இல்லைன்னு சொல்லக்கூடாது இன்டர்பிரேட்டட் லா இஸ் டிஃபரெண்ட் இன்டர்பிரேட்டட் மீன்ஸ் when you talk about one term you have to refer all the acts and related terms. Okay, we'll go for registered. Yes, registered. Yes, normal definition shall be registered in India under the law for the time being in force for the registration of documents. It can be any type of registration. Shall I take over? Rule shall mean a rule made in exercise of a power conferred by any enactment. See, there is an enactment I have. Under that, a power is given where you can make a rule. Then in that case, we'll call this as a rule and includes a regulation also. Please highlight. See, usually when we list it out, we say act, rules, regulation, etc. But what the general term rule says is rule means regulation also. So rule, bylaws, regulation, everything are covered. Okay. Schedule or schedule means a schedule to the act or regulation in which the word comes. MOA is a schedule to Companies Act under the incorporation rules. MOA, AOA, tables. Section is section of the act or regulation. Subsection below that. Okay. Then swear we have discussed. Yes, that's it. Writing, writing. Okay. Printing, lithography, photography also is a writing. Okay. And other modes of representing and reproducing words in visible forms. Please highlight. How can you say photography as a writing? Lot of question கேட்காதீங்க. That's the fact. Sometimes it may look like illogical. Looking after this definition in visible form, photography in visible form, we say it as writing. See, when we say expressive in nature, we use only two modes of expression. One is writing and one is oral. You cannot say a photography as a oral. So obviously it falls under writing. Okay. It's generally it should fall under expressive mode. Okay. Year shall mean a year reckoned according to the dictionary. So we have done totally 28 definitions only. Actually, how many are there? 67. We have done only 28. Okay. Yes, for please. Totally, we have how many acts for? 3 acts. Currently, we are in 1897. Earlier to that, 1888. And more earlier to that, 1868. And where no General Process Act is applicable, Central Acts, rules and regulations. Usually we'll call rules and regulations. Okay, keep all these things in mind and come for section 4. Section 3, we have defined it. Section 3 is a primary section for definition. Not for section 4. There are certain definitions in section 3 which would also apply to the acts and regulations made prior to this one. Go for section 3 now. Yes. What is said in section 3? Principal section containing definition applies to the act itself and post-tax. Post-tax of 1897. Okay. Now what we are defining in this one? What we are defining in this one? Yes, please. Yes, please. What we are defining here? Would also apply to acts and regulations made prior to 1897. So section 3 is 1897 Act of General Process Act and all the acts after that. But this one is directly related to all the acts made prior to 1897. Okay. But not all the definitions. Certain definitions only. We'll list out what are those. On the previous enactments, what are the previous enactments? These two. Okay. This provision is divided into two parts. First part is where these terms or expressions are applicable to all central acts made after 1868 Act and to all regulations made after 14th Jan 1887 Act. Okay. Below, second, application of terms and expressions to all central acts and regulations made on or after this period. Combine both and refer. Combine both and refer. What are the companies? Central acts made after. So if I draw this line, this is 1868, this is 1897, and this is 1887. All central acts made after this period. Okay. And all regulations made on or after. Please highlight on or after. First is after. Here it is on or after. After 14th Jan. So from this period. Okay. Now come here to all central acts and both regulations made on or after 1887. So in those cases, there are certain definitions made prior to this act is divided into two parts. Application of these terms and so when you go for these definitions, this is applicable for those central acts and regulations. And when you go for these terms, it's applicable for all central acts and regulations made after. Okay, what are those? Shall I list it out? Let me clear it. Affidavit. Okay. Immovable property, imprisonment. So it's given in alphabetical order. Month, movable property, oath, person, section, year. Unless there is anything repugnant in the contest or okay, probably you have to refer those particular acts and all right to all central acts made, etc. So what are the things you have to remember? Only these definitions: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These 9 definitions, even though it's defined under 1897 Act, as per Section 3, on or after 1897 Act, but here Section 4 says these are applicable for all central acts made after the state and all regulations made after state. Whereas if you go for the next set, second set, here it relates to all central acts and all regulations made on or after this date. What are the lists here? Yes, please join. Commencement, financial year, offense, register, schedule, subsection, and writing. Only 7. Only 7. Here it is 9, I think, right? Here is 7. These 7 definitions will be applicable to all central acts and regulations made after this date. What do you understand from this? See, if I bring a act, commencement of that, and the definition is over there, what we say about the definition? That definition is applicable from that act onwards. But here we say, like, it's like retrospective effect. Even though these definitions, this 9 and 7 are made after this date, it still says it's applicable from this date onwards. ஒரு டேட் கொடுத்தா அதுக்கு பிறகு தானே அப்ளிகபிலிட்டி பத்தி பேசுவோம் அது டிஃபால்ட் தானே பட் இங்க என்ன சொல்றாங்க அது முன்னாடி இருந்தே அப்ளிகபிள்ங்கிறாங்க அது சொன்னாதான் அப்ளிகபிள் ஆகாது ஸ்டேட் தட்ஸ் வை இட்ஸ் அப்ளிகபிள் how many definitions 9 and 7 this is section 4 okay we go for section 4a shall I the definitions in section 3 of the expression central act see it's all related to Indian laws you remember related to Indian laws only will refer central act central government gazette see all related to Indian acts government secretaries Indian law official gazette shall apply to all the Indian laws unless there is any repugnant in the subject of for example like FEMA Act or Prevention of Money Laundering Act we'll talk about competent court and all okay why we talk about competent court is FEMA we cannot talk FEMA means I'm talking about directly linked with laundering if you talk about laundering I cannot talk about my act alone yes sir now we have this Ambani case going on enforcement director is taking the role right so in those cases and all second point in any Indian law, if any references are made in whatever the forms you use or words you use, when you say revenue related to central government or of any state government or both or whatever it is, from the first day of April 1950, this reference, when we say revenue or related to that, this will be reference to consolidated fund of India or consolidated fund of state. When we say fund means what? Fund relates to the revenue for the government. So consolidated fund of India or consolidated fund of the state as the case may be. So that's about the full act. Probably you may be asked to write section 4 and section 4A as per the General Process Act. They will not define it. They will tell only the section number. Section 4, uh, write in detail or discuss section 4 and 4A as per the general clauses. So you have to define 4 and 4A, and definitely have to list out all these things from in the own interpretation. In case write about definitions கேட்டாங்கன்னா you have to write section 3, 4 and 4A. Okay, so that's about this topic. Thanks for joining.